Happy Friday, everyone, and welcome to the Tricastination situation. How you doing, Melissa?
I'm good. How are you, Rick?
It's been a week. This
It
this
has been,
one,
yes.
this one was not normal, not as planned, not optimal, but I am glad it's Friday. I'm ready to call it. But we've got an important topic to talk about,
We
and
do.
this is we've been on a little bit of a kick talking about disaster recovery and stuff, and you know what? They can happen anywhere. And you're in New Jersey.
I am,
I'm
yes.
I'm in Ohio. We've got a producer in Georgia. We've got a producer in Romania, but we want to know where you're from. So, what do they need to do on the little chat? Just let us know,
Let
right?
us know in the comments wherever you're watching, where you're from, and we're gonna light up this map and make it green.
Yeah, go for like country or U.S. state, and the map's kind of cut up like that, and we'll see what we can do. Let us know where you're from, and we will make the world green. We were just talking about all the places we've had. It's really interesting. Some of the attendees, we love the interaction. Oh, that guy from Ohio, another one. Great, welcome, Tim. All right, well, let's get into it today. So, we're going to talk about orchestration four different ways. And why do we want to even think about orchestration, Melissa?
Oh, we need to talk about orchestration, especially disaster recovery orchestration, because let's face it, disasters happen. This is our friend Michelle. Poor Michelle is sitting in a flaming server room and just thinks that it's fine. But as we all know, we've all been sitting in the proverbial flaming data center. It's not fine. And there are so many different types of disasters. Ransomware is a disaster. We're seeing a ton of that lately. We've got the classics: hardware failure, corruption, fire, flood, storm. And someone called me out this week when I was presenting the slide. Hey, what about earthquakes? Earthquake too. So pick your favorite disaster, but make sure that you're ready for it, or any other type of disaster.
And we get a little bit cheeky here with the character. Her name's Michelle. By the way, does Michelle have a last name, or is that another
No,
topic? I don't know.
it's like Madonna, I think. There's no last name.
Well, how about that, Michelle Madonna, Eminem? All right, but anyways, I think that we all have been a little bit. Maybe this is complacent or just not aware to some of the scenarios. I mean, there's a reason why her coffee is so hot there, with all that steam, and we're so close to all these different types of problems, but the reality is, there's a number of problems with disaster recovery, but two of them stick out most. And what have you seen in this space, Melissa?
Yeah, two things which really turned into three and four and whatever. Disaster recovery is difficult to plan, right? We need to know all of our servers, all of our applications, our recovery time objectives, our recovery point objectives, our SLAs. So we have to get that all down. We have to get it documented. And then we need to test it, which is another interesting paradigm, because a lot of people do these disaster recovery tests that are designed to pass, right? I need to show for compliance that I have a disaster recovery plan and it's been tested. So I'm going to make a test where I just go, restore a couple servers, they work, and we're good to go. But that's not an accurate real world disaster recovery test. We need to be testing, at the application level, at the site level, and doing tests that we would do if there was a disaster, right? No taking shortcuts, no skipping steps. We want to know that we can recover if something happens.
What's also interesting about this phenomena, this problem, Melissa, is as the technology has advanced, the problem really is built around kind of myths and perceptions about the difficulty level of doing these types of tests. Like, 20 years ago, 15 years ago, 10 years ago, even, it was really hard because we weren't as fully virtualized. We didn't have advanced storage. We didn't have, low RPO data transport techniques, right? But like now the technology is there. So both of these, I think, are really ripe to be basically myth busted. Am I wrong?
Yeah, absolutely. The disaster recovery that you might be used from like a decade ago. I actually, it's funny you used all those times. I realized this year that I did my first DR task like 15 years ago or something like that. And that was very different. It was go to the data center for a weekend with my clipboard, and we were actually like rebuilding servers and all this crazy stuff. And again, we just did enough to be like, oh, okay, I think we can do this. It'll work. Let's check the boxes.
Yeah.
But it was like nothing like we could do today.
Yep. Yeah, but that's really the goal of what we want to get at here. And, if you've not heard of Veeam Disaster Recovery Orchestrator, I think before we walk through some of the different ways that you can orchestrate, I think it's also really important that we kind of dissect or at least look inside the product in relation to all the data that we're protecting, the critical apps that we're protecting. So Melissa, walk us through the different components of
Yeah,
Veeam Disaster
absolutely. So we're
Recovery.
talking orchestration for ways today, right? And spoiler alert, there's a bunch of different types of data protection in Veeam, but the four that I spend the most talking about are Veeam CDP replicas, Veeam regular replicas, Veeam backups, and Veeam's integration with storage snapshots, right? So those are the four types of data that we can orchestrate the recovery of with Veeam Disaster Recovery Orchestrator. And you can see all of that depicted in here, right? We have storage replication at the bottom. We've got some backups in our different backup repositories, leveraging that wonderful instant VM recovery technology. And then we've got our regular replication and our CDP replication. And the best part of Veeam Disaster Recovery Orchestrator is you build a server, you install it, you install that orchestrator agent on your existing backup and replication servers in your environment, right? The ones you're using today. And Orchestrator instantly understands all those data protection jobs and policies you have. So on top of the powerful backup and replication engine, you can add additional orchestration and automation capabilities. But we're leveraging everything you have today in your environment, all those backups that you're taking that are meeting your RPLs, all those different replicas, we're riding on top of that.
Yeah, that's a great part. So there's not a lot of rework. And, this is also something, a little, again, spoiler alert. Once we get to these outcomes that the organization can enjoy, this may be the evidence you need to convince the business, okay, guys, we need to finally virtualize these last little bits of the data center. Because of this ability to have advanced DR, that might be just what we need to get it done. So I've been looking on my phone here. Great interaction with the locations. Let us know where you're from. But I just got word from the producers that the map is ready. So let's take a look at the map. Yeah, we've got a great start. We've seen let's see, that's Mexico, Louisiana. I hope everybody's okay down there. William, are you joining again? We got Florida, we got Pennsylvania, we've got a lot of different places here. I think I got it. Yeah, good. Oh man, good. I'm missing a state. But anyways, welcome Germany. We've got Swiss. We've got Czech Republic. We've got Croatia, Denmark, Azerbaijan, Italy. Welcome, welcome, and welcome. Azerbaijan might be a first, at least with you and me, Melissa. I don't know. Brazil, Mexico, and thank you all in Algeria, up North Africa. Great, great, good. India, love it. Oh, who's over there? Thailand. Oh, cool. I would be down for some tom yum soup right now, guys. Thank you. Welcome, Puerto Rico. Bienvenido, Luis. Thank you. I'll keep them coming. So if you haven't dropped in the chat across all the different streams where you're from, let us know. We'll do our best to light up the map. Great, great attendance there. I'm getting hungry. It is about lunchtime here. But no, good stuff. Thank you, everyone. So we've set up some of the problem and then some of the architecture, but then let's go to this kind of high level view. Veeam Disaster Recovery Orchestrator. Now, this is a product that's gone through a journey to really solve these types of problems that we've identified here. We talked about the architecture because we actually went back and forth on the architecture. I think it kind of get it up there early and maybe come back to it too if we needed. But if I had to explain the Disaster Recovery Orchestrator product to someone, Melissa, in a couple easy outcomes, as if they're on the screen, how would you introduce it? As if they are.
Orchestrator is all about stress-free recovery for your VMware-based environments, right? And we're going to reduce that stress a couple different ways, right? We're going to reduce risk. We're going to give you DR for all applications, like we showed you, from your mission-critical apps with Veeam CDP to those apps that maybe you should have a DR plan for from backup, but you don't. You're going to do everything in the exact same way in Orchestrator, and it's really simple to do. Because we can recover so quickly and verify that and test that, we're going to maximize the availability in our environment. And one of the big things in Orchestrator that we keep on talking about is testing. We can leverage that testing environment, which uses a non-disruptive copy of your data, and do patch testing, right? So leave that environment running after a DR test and test those patches, because there's always another nasty 0 day out there that you need to test those patches before you roll them out.
Yeah,
and saving time, Rick.
Yeah, saving
testing
time
saves so much time. The test can be just scheduled or run on demand, automating all your disaster recovery documentation from your DR plan to tests to execution to verifying every day that we're meeting RPOs. And then a ton of out-of-the-box verification steps for things like SQL, Exchange, all those really common enterprise apps that you're using. And then the last thing, of course, because we've tested and we verified and we're always checking, we're going to restore confidence in your ability to recover. It's not going to be, oh no, what happens if I get ransomware? Can I recover? You're going to be like, yeah, whatever. I know I can recover. We're good here.
The important thing here, Melissa, is all these benefits are really, they're different phases of the journey. That's the one kind of thing I want to highlight. Automating the documentation really helps you day to day.
Oh, yeah.
Right. Whereas the restore confidence helps you in the moment of peril. Reducing the risk helps you kind of above things from a risk management and audit standpoint, right? So if you think about where we sit in the point in time for what each of you deal with, this is a benefit across different different points of view and different times. Great question from MKM asks, is it for any server in which Veeam has a backup schedule? And good, I don't know when you join MKM, but that's a good point. This is just for VMware virtualized workloads. And when you get to some of these outcomes, this is probably the evidence you need to get the rest of that stuff there. So it's not available for the other hypervisors, not currently available for the cloud workloads or physical servers, but watch the space. We're going to grow with the product, but for now it's a VMware only conversation, which, I don't know, Melissa, what's our percentage of customers that are using VMware in the data center?
What was it you said? It was well over 80%. I know that
Yeah.
much. I can't remember the exact
number.
I
forgot the number. That's why
you told me yesterday. I can't remember that.
I want to guesstimate it's around 85% of our customer base would be VMware workloads. And then the last 15% split between the Nutanix solution and Hyper-V. But, Melissa, if we had to walk this back a little bit, is this more than just the backup? Kind of building on MKM's question, how do we schedule it for a backup? But what else is involved?
Yeah, so really from an orchestrator perspective, we're talking about a solution, right? This is disaster recovery. We're not going to use one thing or one product. Like we kind of add on and integrate with Veeam backup and replication. But really, if you're looking for kind of that bulletproof solution, so you know that you can back up, meet your RPOs, meet your RTOs, right, and recover confidently, it's using what we like to call the Veeam trifecta, right? Veeam backup and replication. That's where we're going to power all of these data protection jobs, right? Those near zero RPOs, those backups, storage, regular replicas, all that good stuff. And then we're going to take it a step further and we're actually going to monitor that protection in Veeam 1, right? We want to know if our jobs are running, if they're taking longer than usual, if something broke, right? So Veeam 1 there's nothing like Veeam 1 that's going to take a look at your backup and replication environment and make sure that you're in a healthy state all the time. And it goes a step further with Veeam 1 in the other direction too, because you really need to be monitoring those DR resources, right? You need to keep an eye on things like capacity and the state of your environment. Is there anything going on there? Because I've seen a lot of people just, DR's in that data center over there, and we just kind of ignore it. And whatever it is, what it is, right? Well, you want to keep an eye on that. You want to keep an eye on your capacities and all that kind of stuff. And Veeam 1 is really great at doing that. And then finally, you've got orchestration, right? You have the Veeam Disaster Recovery Orchestrator, which kind of comes in, ties it all together. And that's what's actually going to allow you to create that documentation. It's all dynamically generated. Once you create your plan, you're good to go. Your docs are up to date every single day. And then when you have to actually test something, you can test those on demand. You log in a couple of clicks, your test is running, or you can just schedule it to run whenever you want. And then finally, when disaster day comes, because we all know it'll come in way, shape, or form, you have the confidence that you can go in there with one click and start recovering your workloads. So really, if you're looking for that true protection and that true last line of defense for things like ransomware, it's all three of these put together.
Yeah, good point here, Melissa. And, I've talked to a lot of customers and partners over the years about the Orchestrator product here at Veeam. And sometimes, I'll be honest with you, Veeam's a very easy to use product. I like to say, Veeam is too hard to use, said no one ever.
Oh, and it's pretty easy.
And additionally, let me validate it another way. Go find me Veeam administrator as a job title on LinkedIn. Okay, so you probably won't find it. You'll see Veeam as a list of experience, but it's not super heavy to use. The Orchestrator product takes a little bit different of an approach. So whereas everything's usually 7 clicks of a wizard, I think we're at.
I think we counted 12 in one of the wizards, and that was specifically a restore from backup. So
Yeah.
that's probably the most involved thing you're ever going to do in Orchestrator land for a couple of reasons, right? You're going to pick where you want to recover to. Do you want to recover in place? Because we can do that out of the box, just recover your VMs in place. Or do you want to send it to a DR site, and maybe you have multiple sites or multiple tiers of service for DR, you pick that. And then another really special thing that Orchestrator does is it protects your data after recovery. So specifically for a backup job, you can pick the job that you want it to run in DR, right? Because that's now production, we have to back it up. So there's a couple little things in restoring from backup where it's just a little more involved, because restoring from backup is a little more involved, right? With CDP, or a regular replica, as part of your data protection, you're configuring, hey, I'm sending this workload to this VMware cluster over here. I'm picking the storage. I'm doing all that stuff up front. Versus with a backup, you're doing that at restore time. So Orchestrator lets you kind of predetermine that ahead of time. So when it comes time for restore, you hit the button and you're restoring to wherever you decided.
Yeah, and so to put that in a different perspective, what I've been recommending to people is to take one rather simple application and build a model with the Orchestrator product of success and understand what it takes to do that within your environment, and then tackle the other applications. So start small, but think big is what I'm trying to say. And if you were going to recommend, Melissa, for someone to start, which of the four ways would someone be a good one to start with?
This is like trying to pick your favorite anything. Really hard. I would probably pick a restore from backup job, just because, like I said, that is like the most involved to do. But it's also, if I'm thinking ransomware or something like that, you're probably going to be restoring from backup. So I would pick with a restore from backup. But it's the same simple wizard for every type of workload. So when we're going through the motions of setting things up, we're doing everything the exact same way for our CDP replicas, our most mission critical workloads, near zero RPOs, all the way down to our Veeam backups. And, for me, that's really nice just from an operational perspective, right? When I have to go create a plan, it looks and feels the same. If I have to go read the documentation, it's fully customizable, so I can add relevant info to my organization, my app. I might be adding logos, infrastructure topology diagrams, application diagrams, but the general look and feel of the documentation is the same. It's very a uniform feel and approach, because, hey, when disaster strikes, the last thing you want to be doing is doing everything differently, right? You go in and you click launch a DR plan, and it doesn't matter what type of plan it is. You're going to go do the same everything to launch every type of plan, and you can actually change them together too. So I can say, okay, start with plan 1, and after plan 1 finishes, kick off plan 2, then kick off plan 3, kick off plan 4. So it's really powerful to be able to pretty much orchestrate recovery of your whole VMware environment.
Yeah, that's a really good set of advice there, Melissa. And I'll break it down also an additional way. And I kind of think of it like a triangle or a pyramid shape, where at the top of the food chain, or the most critical part of the top, would be the CDP replica, because we can get into the seconds of RPOs.
If you kind of look, it's kind of listed in order.
Yeah, exactly. And the
I
other
wonder how that happened.
Yeah, exactly. And then on the bottom, from the restore plan, the thought is everything should be backed up, right? So that's a good place to start, and start with a lesser critical app. And then, maybe you're not using the storage replication or an integrated storage array with Veeam, right? So maybe that one isn't available.
We've got the regular replicas too.
Exactly.
So we're pretty much covered for every different type of data in Orchestrator.
Yeah, you could call this a tiered approach.
Tiered approach. What do you know?
And then the other thing we brought up the other day was that you can have a critical app be backed up, but also within, say, CDP, and have different plans. So keep that in mind as well. So it might be subject to multiple rules. All right. I'm going to hit on your favorite part, the deets.
I love documentation.
Tell me about the deets.
I do. So we have 4 different types of documents in Orchestrator as well. Now, first and foremost is the plan definition report. That's your DR plan. It has every VM in the plan, what steps are going to be taken on it, and most importantly, it has a full audit log. So if I set up my DR plan, I'm good to go, and then Rick logs in and maybe makes some changes, I will catch that when my plan definition reports runs on a daily basis, and I'll know, okay, Rick was in there and did something bad, or wow, Rick really went into this and added some more service to the DR plan. Great. Who knows which way that's going to go. We also have the readiness check that runs on a regular basis. And I actually ran into some really great, interesting stuff in my lab with the readiness check this week. So it's going to do a couple of things. It's going to check your RPO, and it's going to check your readiness for recovery, basically. It's going to look at your vSphere environment, make sure all your hosts are online, make sure everything is good. But I was actually rebuilding my lab with NetApp storage, which is one of the supported storage arrays in Orchestrator. And I built a whole new NetApp array. I configured the snap mirrors, and then I went and built a plan. Orchestrator told me in the readiness check that, hey, the ESXi hosts in your second site can't actually see the storage, so we can't mount the data store because I never set up the export policy on the NetApp. So that was like a great catch, totally something that people do all the time. I mean, I configured NetApps for a very long time. I just happened to forget that. So it's always kind of checking and looking and keeping you in line. And if it does find an issue, it's going to give you actionable advice like, hey, go configure your export policy, Melissa, then you'll be good to go. And I was. We also have the data lab testing, right? That's just kind of your test report. That's going to list your RPO and most importantly, your TO, right? It's going to tell you how long it actually took you to run that plan and recover fully. And then of course, execution report. I hope you never, ever have to look at one of these, but if you do, that's going to show, of course, that your DR plan ran successfully because we've tested it so often and we're checking it every day.
Well, I'd go so far to say is that part of that starting small with a known element app, you might also want to have, some other plans built that you actually do the execution report, just so you know that you have a sense of how it's going to go. I mean, the data lab test, the readiness checks, those are going to help you out too. But it's all about just being prepared. Everything from and BBR's question about recovering from cyber attack, right here, BBR, sorry, I don't know how to pronounce, well, Ben, I can get that name right. But Ben, right here, the response to a cyber attack, that's where a lot of times people fall down. I consistently see it when I talk to customers and partners. It's like getting out of a problem. These types of plans, these data lab test reports that know that you're going to be able to run right, the readiness checks, the definition reports, to then put it all together and run it when the time comes. Ben, this is the way. This is how you do it.
It is.
Indeed. Good question. Well timed, Ben. A problem that we need to solve. So, Melissa, as we turn the corner here, tell me the 4 problems that people need to take away as solutions.
And there's way more than 4 problems, but I think these are kind of the biggest when it comes to actual execution time, right? Not the planning, not getting everything ready, but when it's time to recover, here are the biggest problems people see. Out of date DR documentation, they're missing steps. Maybe they're not recovering the full application because those servers were never added to the plan, right? So there's a big problem if you're following an out of date documentation. The tax of a DR test. We're used to, hey, okay, it's all hands on deck for this DR test. We're going to all log in or all go to the data center all weekend long and work on this. And we've got to do scheduling and all this other stuff. It's an expensive thing to do from a resource perspective. With Orchestrator, it's a matter of a couple clicks. I think I demoed it yesterday. It took me about 3 minutes to run a disaster recovery test. And that was because I was explaining how the whole thing worked, right? So it's really just a couple clicks. Or again, you can schedule those to run whenever you want. And of course, manual errors during recovery. Humans are humans and make errors. And when humans are under pressure because there's a disaster and, hey, you need to get this application online right now, or we're going to be down, we're losing money, we're having issues. That's a lot of pressure to put on a human, and people are going to make mistakes. It's just going to happen no matter how well they know things, right? And then, of course, compliance gaps, right? A lot of people need to be able to explicitly show that they have a disaster recovery plan and it's up to date. And if you can't do that, you're risking a lot of things. You could have issues with whatever professional licensing you have. You could have issues where you're going to be fined. Really, it's kind of not a good thing. So those are the 4 common issues that Orchestrator solves. There's a lot more, but these are the 4 things that I've seen customers struggle with the most when it comes to disaster recovery.
Absolutely. This is really a great opportunity to break that glass ceiling of disaster recovery, or throw your hard drives through the screen, whichever way your day is going. So we're going to go over to the map one more time here. I just got an date, I believe. I hope. Yes, good. Well, a number of new countries have just popped in here. So I did already mention Puerto Rico. Again, thank you all for letting us know. Let's see, Portugal is new in the house. I saw more people from New Jersey. Melissa, what is going on
I
with the
have no
water
idea what's
there?
going on in New
We've
Jersey.
added Belgium, Portugal, Bahrain, Kenya, Indonesia, Sri Lanka, Japan. No, I saw a bunch coming in. So thank you all for joining. Kenya, that'd be a cool one. Yeah. So it's like, thank you all for sharing this. Japan live. That's not every day at
We don't get a lot of Japan.
midnight 30.
Welcome.
All right. Well done, guys. No, I appreciate that. I'm not really good with the map. I'm just doing my best guess. The producers have given me some and I've been watching the stream. Good stuff, friends. Thank you all for letting us know. Oh, we didn't get Canada or Russia. We need those green
I
tops.
know
You know what I
the
mean?
big green countries.
Dang. I had to, do some targeted invites. All right. So before I forget, I want to do an important highlight. Next Monday, you're back on the other end of the production, the industry insights.
I am.
Part 2, talking what? Your favorite
Part 2,
theme?
we're going to talk more about disaster recovery, and we're going to dive into documentation and your DR documentation and what you need to be thinking about.
Indeed. So, for those of you who are frequent watchers of the channels and stuff, we're really trying to give the Orchestrator product some lift and some visibility here. And we really encourage you to give it a try. You can download a fully functional trial for 30 days. Am I right on that?
Absolutely. And here's a couple of secrets, right? A lot of people get kind of with DR, I don't want to touch production, whatever. When you install Veeam Disaster Recovery Orchestrator, you actually get a couple things. You get Veeam Disaster Recovery Orchestrator. You get an embedded version of Veeam Backup and Replication, which isn't really for production use, but it's great for a POC or lab testing, right? So schedule a couple jobs, back up a couple of VMs there. And it also comes with an embedded version of Veeam 1 that's mostly for categorization. But I could tell you from experience that it does do some basic kind of alarming and functionality. And maybe if you went and put in a Veeam 1 trial key, it might unlock all the features, the performance data collection of Veeam 1 as well. So it's a great way to test all those products at once, especially Veeam CDP, right? So it's a great way to test CDP. You can kind of use this all in one model. I do it all the time in my lab for demos. Kirsten and I have done a lot of work with it. And it's really simple to get started with, and you get that 30-day free trial.
It is simple and like right on the screen. I got my phone right here. I'm going to pull it up and get this QR code and go right to it. And it does work. It takes you right to that product page. So you have plenty of time, no excuses. You can go check it out. Now, next Friday, we're back, Melissa, and we're going to talk ransomware specifically from a recovery plan standpoint.
Absolutely.
So the guys, we're not letting this orchestrator topic go. So you're going to hear more from Melissa and I next week. And so thank you so much, Melissa. Great show as always.
Thanks for having me, Rick. I always love to talk about disasters, or should I say recovering from disasters. That's it, recovering from disasters.
Harnessing your inner Michelle. I love it.
Yeah.
I love it. All right, friends. Well, on behalf of our global production team in both Romania and Atlanta, Georgia, USA, thank you so much for attending, and thank you for the teams presenting today and preparing the content. Have a nice weekend. That concludes our stream, everyone.